Aloha, everyone. I'm Camille. It's so nice to be with all of you today. It's been an incredible summit, and the sessions I've been so privileged to be in made me feel so connected to everyone here. Uh, and the session I was in this morning um, about what was led by the Lakota elders and staff that have been working with youth um, to reduce violence in their community. The language used was always referring to each other as our relatives. And it was just very beautiful, and it just really resonated with me. So now I am seeing all of you as relatives and family, ohana, and it's just overwhelming. So I really thank you all for being here. Uh, I have the privilege of introducing our closing plenary speaker today, and I think about how I met him, and of all the places I would think I would meet someone who became my teacher, um, a healer in my life, a friend, an uncle, family member. It would not be the first place I would not think would be at HMSA, the Blue Cross Blue Shield health plan in Hawaii, where I work. And it's funny how I've met so many wonderful and incredible human beings at that place of work, where sometimes you struggle and sometimes you find an amazing aloha. And I met our speaker at the Innovation Center at HMSA because we were both kidney donors. And I immediately heard what he had to say and felt his aloha and said, this is someone I need to learn from. And I've been so grateful to be a student of Pono Shim for the last 5 or 6 years of my life. And as a social worker and as someone who just struggled in life, I've always been looking for the answer. How do you heal? How do you heal from the trauma we've all been talking about for the last few days? And when I met Pono, that was the first time I said, oh, I understand. And he changed my life that day and has become part of my family. And I know he's changed thousands of people's lives here in Hawaii and across the world. And we're so lucky to hear from him today. If you've ever sat with Pono, you know what it feels like to be completely accepted and loved no matter what. And sometimes you say, oh no, I might be doing something wrong. What if he thinks I'm not doing it right? I'm not practicing aloha correctly. And then you realize when you see him that he is aloha and there is no room for this fear. It's all love, it's all acceptance. You take the good, leave the bad, and you connect. And he has taught me so much of how to connect with myself, with my family, with strangers, with friends. My life is completely different, and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for everything that Pono has shown me, taught me, and been to me. And so I'm really grateful that we all are here to hear from Pono, to close out this summit. It's a very special summit. We deal with very important issues in the lives of our clients, and our communities. And Pono will teach us something different than something that we haven't heard before. And the fact that you are all here means you are meant to be here to hear this. And so I'd like to introduce you all to Pono Shim.
I'm going to just sit down a little bit. This is all heart-to-heart talk. This is a story about a little boy who did not know what he was doing. No idea. But it's a powerful story that today I can tell. So I am sharing a story that no one has ever heard publicly. And I made a very purposeful decision that I was going to do that. Because this is the first time I've had a public talk, not Zoom. And I'm so glad it's IVAT. And I am not sure how many more public talks I will have. So I have stage 4 terminal lung cancer. And it's not like anybody else's cancer. I have what's called a trophoblastic variant, which is the most aggressive cancer there is in the world. There are only 16 human studies with my cancer. And so people who they can endure, we don't know if I have 2 days or if I have 2 weeks. And that's why I'm just so present for all of you. There is a person that is with me, and I want to ask everyone, if you are my student or consider yourself one of my students, would you please raise your hand? Okay. Come. So all of you who are my students, and there's over 4,000 around the world. The person who is my kako, my leader, that I will leave things to is my dear friend and student, Miki Tomida, and my teacher. And she has the privilege, but also the amazing gift that there are 3 men who trust her. Actually, there's more, 4 or 5, as masters. One is Nainoa Thompson, and another one is Herb Lee, and she is my friend. And you know who has? It's not what we sought. It's because for whatever reason we feel safe. And so all of you who are students, I am making sure that all of you will have resources, that Mickey will establish the foundation for the resources. And I wanted her here because she is not going to hear this talk either. And I asked that this talk be made recorded. Okay, thanks. So this is a story about a little boy who didn't, real ku'aina, who didn't know what he was doing, who he was, just that he was loved, and he so admired people, in awe of people, for whatever reason, all of his life. And of course, that boy is me. So Let's see. Just so that everybody knows Mickey. I mean, really, if I ain't here, I just want you folks to think about this. Connection versus correction. The entire world, education, political, economic systems are all predicated on correction, not connection. How do we correct? And we don't, I believe, don't know how to connect because we don't have the muscle memory. And I just want you to just think about that as I weave my tapestry of this story together. I want you to know that this is what I plan to do to you today. I wrote that quote a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago. The knowledge needed to address the large and deep issues doesn't come from what most of us talk or think about regularly in our day-to-day lives. That has brought us where we are. The needed resource comes from a much deeper reservoir within that only comes out abundantly when there is an individual who's skilled at unlocking the lid of that reservoir in others, and people are willing to trust that they have the brilliance within themselves. Not going to make sense until I do what I do. Except some of you have already done it, lifting your lids. The reason why is I believe that because of correction, most folks are doing this. Hey, you know what you need? You need this book. Or you need that book, or you need this talk, or you need this strategy. And we're all correcting each other. And for me, it's almost like we have this, what's called an umeke. It's a quobo. And everybody has one. And my stories are meant to say, get the hell off of those people. And to allow you to know it's coming inside of you. So it's not Pono dumping crap on top of you folks or correcting you. My stories are meant to lift your lid. Say, it's me. Yeah, it's you. This was a talk that I did in 2018. I was a closing speaker of the Earth Day Summit that was sponsored by the woman. Her name is Laureen Powell Jobs, Mrs. Steve Jobs. And Laureen wanted to honor Hawaii. That when President Trump said that America is out of the Paris Accord, Hawaii said, we're not out, we're in. And she so believed that Hawaii needed to be honored. And I know I was the second to the last speaker, and I was the closing speaker. And because of that, I developed, or I was given opportunities through their friendship to do a few things. And one of the things that I was given an opportunity to do was called attend a Do Fest, a festival of doers. And what Laureen was doing was they wanted to assemble 150 doers from around the planet, just even to be considered for that. And for whatever reason, I was invited. And all she wanted was us to learn, to connect, to support, to maybe design with each other. And it was a remarkable day event of 4 days. At this event was a woman, Susan Alsner, on the left. Susan and her partner founded a company called Shift 7. Shift 7, if you do Shift 7, it's the and sign. And Susan's partner, Megan Smith, in their business, she was the one who President Obama tasked to transform the IT infrastructure of America. And so these are pretty rock star people. And during our first presentation, Susan came up during her presentation and she started to talk about, she wasn't griping, she was just commenting that when she worked for the United Nations, so Susan worked for the United Nations, she was responsible for bringing in indigenous communities, rural communities to the UN. That's what Susan was. And this young girl here, Kathy Jetno, I don't know if any of you have heard of the Micronesian poet, Marshallese poet, Kathy Jetno. But Kathy is the Marshallese poet. And Kathy was there, but Susan was the one who brought in Kathy to the United Nations. And what Susan said is, these people, it's a male, white-dominated organization. Talk about courage. And they're not interested in rural communities. And I just thought, wow, this lady's incredible. She's so honest, but she's teaching us. And in the history of the United Nations, there have been only 3 standing ovations in the history of the General Assembly. Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, and Kathy Jetno. So she is something. Well, when I heard Susan talking, I really I wanted to meet her because I just felt, gosh, she has so much to share. It was quite a busy event. We had much time, but everyone was doing different things. But Susan and I, we showed up for breakfast on the very last day. The 2 last for breakfast. And we ended up talking for 8 hours. Even when the event was done, she and I talked for 8 hours. And at one point, Susan says this, Pono, I want to tell you a story about refugees and immigrants. And I said, Susan, can you pause your story? Because I just found some medicine and I need to type it in my phone. So I typed my phone, and then Susan said, what was the medicine you found? And I said, the medicine I found is that we have named these people wrong. They are not refugees and immigrants. They are navigators and peace seekers. And the minute I said that, Susan started to tear. I said, see, Susan, if someone sees themselves as a refugee and immigrant, how much they see themselves as a problem. Something that somebody has to fix. But if somebody sees themselves as a navigator, peace seeker, what are they? They're a resource. Here are people navigating through hell. And the courage, the knowledge, the wisdom, the resilience they are learning and going through in their journey is a resource for us. We talk about resiliency. They got it in spades. If I call you a refugee and immigrant, you're somebody I have to solve. If I call you a navigator and peace seeker, you're a resource for me. And I started to share other stories about Hikianalia, who had come to us, sister canoe of Hokulea, because Nainoa promised Laureen that Hikianalia, Mama's sister, Hokulea's sister, would be with us. Susan sobbing. She didn't need to tell her story anymore. She's dosing on my medicine. That was Sunday night. at the finish of the event. This was Saturday night during the evening event. So one of the things that Lorraine did was she wanted to have all of us 150 people go and march in and have an experience of Muir Woods. So the largest intact redwood forest in the world. The 3% of the redwoods, that's it. And she wanted us to have that experience, but she also wanted us to declare what it is that we were going to dedicate our lives to in humanity as well as in Mother Nature's resources. The reason was that the United Nations documents were signed in Muir Woods by 150 delegates after World War II. I didn't know that. But that's where they went. They went to the forest. And it was now us making another commitment or a recommitment to that. So we get up on the buses, and we're in this, it's called the Cathedral Chapel, I think, of Muir Woods. And my friend Andy Karsner, who was in that picture with me and Lorraine, he was a managing partner as well as this Tibetan monk from MIT. They greet all of us. And the Tibetan monk says, one of the highest disciplines we believe anyone can observe is the discipline of silence. Now, everyone will be given a stone, a pohaku, a rock. It will be something that you can keep for your own. We hope that it's something that inspires you. You can put your feelings into it, your emotions, your thoughts, so you can take it with you. And it was a very somber moment. 150 people. So very somber moment. I promise, not 100 feet, almost everybody's talking. Almost everybody's talking. How come? These are not people of silence, they're people of noise. See, we think we can control it. But if we don't have the muscle memory of the discipline of silence, it's going to be a theory, not a practice. So these are not bad people. They're incredible people. They're doers on the planet. But they're not people of silence. They're people of noise. There might be a lid in there someplace. They could practice. Practice what? They could practice exercises. So, I hold back because I don't want to be around people making noise. They're hugging trees, they're laughing, taking pictures. So I just held back because I wanted silence. And then I started to walk by myself. And I'm just marveling at the monsters, the giants of the planet, the redwoods. And eventually I get around this bend and I see this tree, and this tree is different. It's not the biggest. It's not the tallest. They're monstrous. But this one was short. It had a much wider girth. She had char at her base, which meant to me she survived fire. And she had a swath of bark that was missing, so she has a scab. And I looked at her, and then I looked at the scab. And although it was dark, if you looked beneath the scab at what's not seen, she was so beautiful, unbelievable, the redwood that she was. And so what I did, which was just me, and it's not a performance, She and I share my carbon dioxide. She will share with me her oxygen. I turn away and I hear this woman, this Haole woman, this Caucasian woman, who says, "Your reverence is palpable." Now, I didn't see her yet, but I just heard a woman say, "Your reverence is palpable." I didn't know anybody looking at me because it's not a performance. And so then I looked and it was Mary. She's a pediatric surgeon in Baylor University. And I said, you know, when Captain Cook came to Hawaii, the estimates were upwards of 800,000 people based on food production. And within less than 100 years, there were less than 50,000 of us. That is total decimation of a people. And for whatever reason, I and this tree are still here. We are survivors. We have no explanation. Entire families decimated. But for whatever reason, I and she are here. So this lady says, I have to ask you a question, and you're going to think it sounds nuts. But I am a pediatric surgeon at Baylor University. I teach pediatric surgery. She's in her 60s, and she says, and I'm making a decision that I am going to shift the trajectory of my life, and I want to pursue the seminary. Okay? And she said, I found a program. It works for me. I know for other people it's liberal, but for me, it works. And one of the things that we must all do as students is we must find a spiritual mentor. That's one of our tasks. So, would you be my spiritual mentor? Excuse me? Would you be my spiritual mentor? Why are you telling me this? Why are you asking me this question? You don't even know my name. She says, I don't know. My gut is telling me to ask you. You guys, is there a sign on my head that says, ask him? I'm walking in the forest, minding my own business. So we ended up talking initially 4 hours and then 6 hours. And then Mary went home early that morning, and then I met Susan. Mary says to me in a text message that Sunday, can we begin my teaching by you teaching me how to practice aloha? Practice. So she probably stalked me, looked at videos, and was like, oh, wow. She said that she'd spoken to some folks who were there, and she did not want to impose upon me her will, and she just didn't want to impose upon me, so she wouldn't only email me or text. She would not talk with me. Now, I have, as my students know, a practice of discipline. And I thought, how do I share this woman's my practice? And she don't want to talk to me. And she in Texas. How am I going to do that? Up until that time, it was all just intimate. So about 4 weeks later, I thought, what the hell? I'm just going to go for it. And she'll be a cohort of one. She will be my student of one. We'll see what happens. And I tell her, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to share with you an email once a week that I want you to just observe in your personal and professional life of these principles that NTP Lahipaki gave me. And all I want you to do is journal. You're not allowed to speak to anyone about what you're doing, except me. Because this is between you and you. And so she said, this is great because tomorrow I'm going to be in Colorado for the first time with my classmates. We're going to be there for 1 month. Oh, serendipity again. She said, perfect. So aho nui, I will begin you on Monday. And then next week I will begin you on ha'a. So she said, this is wonderful. I send her the definition, my definition, what I want her to observe. And on Tuesday morning, Mary sends me a text and she says, hey, do you have a moment to talk? Oh, red flag. Oh, where? Something wrong. You got to talk to me. So I called her and I said, what's going on? And she says, yesterday we had our class. And there are 9 of us in the class. All of us are white 9 people. And the professor is a black woman. This is 2018, by the way, you guys, October. And the professor is a black woman, and she decided to talk about Black Lives Matter. First day of class, 9 white people, 1 black person. The power of the room, too. And she said, and she started to bully us. It was awful. And she accused all of us of being privileged white people. And I totally failed aho nui. So aho nui is not reacting, waiting for the moment, resting in uncertainty, but resting in your certainty. And she said, I totally failed aho nui. I said, oh yeah, I didn't know you can do that, but okay. I mean, that means I failed totally. So I said, what's going on? So she told me. And she said, I'm a teacher too, and I believe you challenge your students, but you don't push them off a cliff. And I fought back, and I went right down that rabbit hole. And she was bullying this other guy, and some of my classmates were crying because I think they saw that we were being bullied. Okay? It's only the second time we've talked, you guys. Okay. Well, I'd like some strategies because I have the class in a few hours and I'd like some strategies. So, what you guys got as a strategy? What's in our toolbox? What's in our toy chest? What's the highest that anybody can hope for? What can we hope for in that crisis that she is revealing to me of traumatization and people being traumatized and continuously being traumatized and hurt? I'm not making judgment. But what can we hope for? Harmony? Understanding, empathy, maybe equity, collaboration, which to me, I hate that because I don't collaborate, I connect. Collaboration to me is just negotiation. It's not connection. So, you guys want to hear the rest of the story? What happened? First of all, Mary, now this is in real time, you guys. Real time. First of all, Mary, this isn't personal. Take anybody who is like you, who has the same experiences as you, same perspectives as you, and she would have done the same thing. That was the first thing. It's not personal. Second, sometimes I think, Mary, that because of our positions, because of our perspectives, because of our ambiance, because somebody's appointed us, because we have responsibility, that there's certain things that a person is not supposed to do. That is no. And because of that, they're not going to do it. And it's not true. You can be the flipping president of the United States and have a total meltdown for 4 years. Don't make no difference. Whether you're the president or you're me. Number 2. And number 3, I see a real opportunity for you to heal your classmates. When Mary and I talked, she was about 120 to 125 heart rate. And I started to share with her the story that happened the day after I met her in Muir Woods with Susan. I started to share with her about the navigators and the peace seekers. As I'm sharing that story with her, she is calming down. And I share with her the entire story. And then I said, sometimes, Mary, I wonder if people look at Black lives like they too are refugees and immigrants when they're really navigators and peace seekers as well. Nobody came to America except those people in shackles. And for over 400 years, they have been navigating hell, seeking peace. And the courage, the knowledge, the wisdom, the resilience they have is what we need as well. You okay? Yeah. She's about 80 to 85 by now, just so you guys know. 120, 125. Now she's 80, 85. Anybody think about that when we engage? Or the skill necessary to do it. Not correction, connection. So she says, yeah, I'm okay. You need anything? No, I'm just taking notes, writing your story down. You okay? Yeah, okay. Did I tell her what to do? Did I tell her how to do it? No correction. All I'm sharing with her is what I see and how I live. All of my stories reveal how I live, not how I theorize. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a call back in a few hours after your class. She says, okay. So I called Mary back at 7 o'clock in Colorado. Hi, how are you? I'm good. I just had dinner with some of my classmates. Oh, that's nice. And I'm sitting here having a glass of wine. Nice. And how was your class? This is the greatest class ever. The greatest class ever. What happened? Well, I sat down and I was really calm. I was not alarmed. Sat down, really centered. And all the feelings were there, and the anxiety was there, and the trauma was there. But I was calm. And I proceeded to share the medicine. And when I shared the medicine, the professor said, I am going to do something that I've never done before. And she went to her closet, typed up construction paper, 4 of them, and wrote all the different identities of everyone in the classroom so that they could write the identities that they have and they could speak about what their privileged perspectives were. So Mary wrote her name, professional, female, queer, white. And she said, and we shared all of our privileged perspectives. This is the greatest class ever. So I laughed, we laughed. And then I called her back on Wednesday and I said, did you document what happened? And she says, I did. I said, okay, thank you. Why did you call me? And she reiterated her trauma. And then I said, what changed in you when we talked? Not what changed in the classroom, what changed in you? And she said, you turned me. You turned me from looking at my professor and you showed me my classmates. I said, right. And then you gave me the medicine to share with my classmates. I said, correct. And what was the outcome in your classroom? And she said, joy, harmony, euphoria. Okay, so you guys, anybody think Black Lives Matter, an outcome is euphoric? Anybody in the world? It is connection versus correction. This man, Maupiailug, Papa, who I've never met. Pious Maupiailug, who shared with us the ancient art of wayfinding, so that today we can be navigators. Again, we didn't even know what the canoe looked like for over 500 years. But because there was one man who understood celestial navigation, but not only understood it, was willing to break the couple, the forbidden secrets to share with anyone outside his culture. And because of that, Nainoa and the Po are able to navigate today and know that we can navigate and inspire others all over the world. When Mao said this, we need to aloha each other, he said it at the meeting in which he was speaking with all of the crew members for the very first time that Hokulea would have her maiden voyage in Tahiti. And he said, we need to aloha each other. It's salto all man. It's Hoku, Mama. Those of you who have not seen her before. She is the epitome of anything that is impossible. She has defied all impossibility. She's not supposed to do what she does at a 62-foot voyaging canoe. 300,000 miles. No one has ever been lost since Ediaika. No one. lost Nainoa Thompson. And Molly put this picture together of the two of us. And I love it. Because we're not looking at each other, we're looking there. We have a very unique story that only came out in the past 6 months because he called me on New Year's Eve. And he said, I want to talk. Can we talk? I need your help. And because of that, I can share this story with you. There's Myron Pinky Thompson, one of the great iconic leaders of the 20th century. And my dad, Alvin Shim. My dad drafted the first employee retirement system in the history of the United States for public workers. Those of you who are public workers, these two men, boy, were they ninjas in disguise. Working, doing, created the first Hawaiian nonprofit. Uncle Pinky and my dad. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is Nainoa and I really believe, we thought that all we were the two little boys sitting in the corner of the room, helping dads. Because that's what happened. We went out. My dad one day said, Pal, I can't be with you today, Saturday. I got to do some meetings. Okay, 8 years old. He said, you want to go with me? Yeah. Okay, go tell Mom. And that's what happened. And I think that's the same thing happened to Nainoa. And we saw the magicians. And we saw ourselves as helping our dads who were just magical men. And their mom, and our mom. This is another quote that I wrote. I'll read it to you. And this, so I work in economic development, and in economic development, and now today, everybody now knows supply chain. So, this is what I talked about in supply chain of solutions. So in the supply chain of iterations and solutions, what we do is, it's regardless of what it is, the system is, product, service, or anything else. It's about problems, searching for solutions, iterations and innovations, prototyping, etc. That's what supply chain prototyping is all about. And then you look at this entire system. So much of the exercise is in proof of concept. And prove the concept. What is that? Correction or connection? So much of the exercise is proof of concept and proof the concept. Aloha is the deep insight to the solution not coming from an intellectual source, but hidden in the genealogy of being connected, being lokahi. Why do we get asked? Why do I get asked to orate often? It's because in the supply chain, people are handicapped in the communication part of the supply chain. They don't know how to communicate in connection, not correction, because our system is predicated on correction. Not the majesty of the whole that reveals a populace is harmonizing with the idea of expression. Attention by the storyteller to the subtle deconstructing of the ties that binds us. 10 people in a classroom. It's not negotiations. The ties that bind, that allow for liberation to occur through the storyteller. Not telling people what to do, but through the storytelling, telling them what I see. Is it possible that group is 120, 125, and we can calm the waters at 80 to 85? We did. Attention by the storyteller to the subtle deconstructing of the ties that binds us from the connection exists internally, and the key which unlocks the liberation of the person to their aspirations, yours and mine, lies in the story interpreted by self. So everybody's lid. It's your story. It's your interpretation. I'm just the storyteller. It is giving someone a key. They shape and cut themselves for their internal doors that are locked. And the joy, self-expression, and discovery is cutting the key, which can take them deeper and deeper to rooms of freedom and connection to a ball of light and love. The supply chain, which has this in it, is unbound, limitless, and immortal. This man was born in 1859. I'm going to ramble through. He was born in 1859. His name was Kauanaluhini Kaupua, known as the Patriarch of Kona. Tutu man. 1961, he's 102 years old and he's about to pass away. The only way I can describe, I've never shared this picture of him before. Mickey never saw him. Today, I am sharing with you Tutu man's picture. Only way I can describe him, Yoda. Serious. We practice Lua because of that man. Incredibly powerful man. And 102 years old, 1961, he calls his two men to him and says, find this woman and bring her to me. You'll find her in Kailua on Oahu. Bring her to me. And at the age of 51, these two men put Auntie Pilahi on the plane, drove her to Kona Hospital. He did, April 13th, what is in our heritage as he gave her his ha. Now, I believe that in everybody's heritage, there are always what I call librarians. Those individuals control the libraries of the knowledge and wisdom. Everybody. Today, we count on other things like our phones and stuff. Google, that's the expert. So, Auntie Pilahi became the proponent of aloha and the keeper of the secrets. I'm not going to talk to all about that, but this is what she said in her prophecy. In the 21st century, the world will search for peace, and they will look to Hawaii because Hawaii has the key, and that key is aloha. She did not say it's an answer. She did not say we got the answer, that aloha is the answer. She said it's a key. And what do keys do? Open or close. Okay, so I'm 13 years old, 1976. I go with my dad. Auntie Pilahi is my grandaunt. Her mother, my great-grandmother, sisters. My great-grandmother was the oldest from Maui. And so I'm sitting there like always, the little boy in the room. And trauma is the name of the game today. Auntie Pilahi is going to share aloha, who we are, our culture. And then she opened it up for people to share what their heva or their heaviness was. And she started to just let them go. This guy says, you know, they stole that island from us. They've been bombing her for over 35 years. What are we supposed to do with Kaho'olawe? Boom. Okay. Everybody else wants the solution. And Pilahi starts to share stories. And as she shares stories, I notice people are calming down. Remember 120, 125? Okay, what else? Kalama Valley and the evictions. Boom. The overthrow. Boom. Waihole, Waikane. The water rights. Trauma. And I sat there as a child in the room. I said, Auntie Pilahi is doing something. She's shifting energy, but I don't think anybody knows it or sees it. Because they're focused on the issue. They're not focused on what she's doing. What is she doing? The child in the room. 6 hours. And it was maybe about 15 minutes to 30 minutes that she would do that. And then the next one, 6 hours. And then it was light, pow. And then she said, we can go, you can go. We can do this again. Everybody got to take care of the family, eat, take a bath. So I waited for my dad like I always did. This time Auntie Piulahi came up to me and she said, Pono, come walk with me. Okay, the puppy, the poodle in the room, gotta go make them go for a walk in the bathroom. So my auntie wants to walk with me. And this is something that happened a lot. The people kupuna would do. I didn't take it for anything like, wow. No, it's just what happened. Kind of Mickey, I know me and Herb. Don't know. So we walk and we talk. She said, I'm going to share something with you, but you are not allowed to share it with anyone else. I am not going to tell you how to speak Hawaiian. I'm not going to teach you how to speak Hawaiian. I didn't ask. And she was talking about that we must learn our language to recover the culture. She says, I'm not going to teach you. I want you to learn how to think Hawaiian, not speak Hawaiian. From the inside out, not from the outside in. She said, as long as you think Hawaiian, regardless of the language or words you use, it will be the language of aloha. And aloha cuts through everything to seek out significant, relevant connection. And so she started to share things with me. Didn't know. I heard her share definitions I never heard before. She said almost every Hawaiian word has 3 interpretations. There's a literal translation known as the ho'opu kaku. Aloha means love. Mahalo means thank you. There's a kauna, that very symbolic, poetic side of our language, the essence. And then she said, but there's a third, and the third is not taught. It's passed to the learned one, is known as the kahuna. She said, I'm going to share with you the deeper meanings of what it means to live Hawaii. Not Hawaiian, Hawaii, our people and our place. And she started to share these things with me. Don't know. Okay. And then says, you're not allowed to share this with anyone else. I only want you to practice, and in your practice you will learn. This is only between you and I, and only with my permission can you share this with another. Okay. No big deal, you guys. Because kupuna would do that to me all the time, so no big deal. Or this is it. I figured that's what everybody does. She shared with me this. The 5 elements of aloha that she spoke of. Akahai, lokahi, olu olu, ha'a ha'a, ahonui. Akahai, the definition of kindness to be expressed with tenderness. That's the kauna expression. But what she shared with me is in parentheses are things that I never heard before. Akahai, grace. Grace. To leave something and someone and someplace better than you found them. That's grace. With white gloves, I call it. Lokahi. People know it as unity. I know it as unbroken, connected, whole. Olu olu, gentle. Gentle like I'm carrying a baby. I'm not here to bruise or scar the baby. I'm also here not to drop the baby, so I'm strong. And she said, Hawaiian, our people are the baby. Do not drop the baby. Ha'a ha'a, to be empty, to empty yourself, because only when you're empty can you receive. Those people, did they come empty or they came full? She spent 6 hours helping them to get empty. They thought it was about the answers. Ahonui, waiting for the moment, that was the one. Waiting. She shared these things with me. I had never heard them before, and she told me to practice. Okay, she didn't tell me how to practice. She just said practice. I figured must be some way to practice. She's not telling me why, but there must be a way. But I can't tell anybody, so I can't ask any adult, how do you practice empty? You know what the brilliance of that is? A child doesn't know no unless we tell him. And I can't ask an adult, how do you practice empty? You cannot. You just live it. So the child noodled. What is it that he can exercise that produces the outcome of empty? Not the theory of empty, the outcome, the muscle memory. Auntie Pilahi died in 1985. I was 22 years old. She never told me I could teach. We never ever spoke about this, by the way, again. It was just one time. When we saw each other at family gatherings, you okay? Yeah. Never spoke of it. But that was like everything again. Par. And then she dies. And I never thought that I would share this with anyone. Until 2010, February, Auntie Pilahi said, came to me, visited me, and said, it's time to share. And only since then have I shared what I've been doing. Not theory, practice. Our queen wrote this quote. I could not turn back the time for political change, but there is still time to save our heritage. That could be in the world, you know. You must remember never to cease to act because you fear you may fail. The way to lose any earthly kingdom is to be inflexible, intolerant, and prejudicial. Another way is to be too flexible, tolerant of too many wrongs, and without judgment at all. It is a razor's edge. It is the width of a blade of pili grass. It's like a razor. To gain the kingdom of heaven is to hear what is not said, not what's said. To see what cannot be seen, not what's seen. And to know what is unknowable. That is aloha. All things in this world are true. In heaven there is but one. I did not know why Nainoa Thompson was calling me. Except I want to care and help for everyone that know. Hokulea rides the waves. She's resilient. She's strong. She's vulnerable. She does not calm the waves. I think that we had an assumption that because we are Hawaiian, aloha would be there. But it's not there if someone doesn't bring it. It doesn't come because of our culture. It comes because we bring it there. And I think that's been an assumption that many all over the world have traumatized. It must be intentional. So in 1976, Hokulea had her maiden voyage. And everyone knew about this voyage. It was physical, must be seen, would be brilliant, and be able to recover our heritage. But nobody saw the voyage that did not yet sing. It was a walk, it was a talk, and it was a ha. Same time Nainoa was launching his voyage, Auntie Pilahi had launched mine. And I had no idea. Why? Because if we don't have her, it's not going to happen here, regardless of who she is. So this little boy didn't know what he was doing. In the first voyage to Tahiti, which if you know, Mao left after it was done. He was the only one who was spiritually, emotionally, intellectually prepared for that voyage. No one else couldn't. He tells the story, or they tell the story of when the doldrums occurred. Folks went nuts. Man, desert. During the second week, Hokulea made good progress with daily runs on the order of 125 miles. The mood of all on board improved. The sky remained cloudy, so Mao steered by the swells. That's the star compass and all of the resources. So she will steer by the clouds. With the clouds, but by the waves and all other things as well. Fish, birds. David Lyman recorded course speed weather conditions in the state of the ocean in Hokulea's log. David Lyman was Port Harbor Master. He is a waterman, and he was documenting data. Mao, he remembers one day trying to detect the most prominent swell, but the sea appeared to be mishmash, confused. He decided to consult Mao. Mao, what is that? It's mishmash. The ocean is confused. That's crazy because he's just seeing all this energy, right? It is nuts. Mao says, it's not confused. Look. And he pointed out 5 different swells to me, Dave recalls. And once he pointed them out, I could see them clearly. There's this one from the east. 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 And there's this one. What did everybody else see? Chaos, trauma, anger. What does Mao see? Order. Why? It's energy and it's converging here. It's not trauma. It's energy. I read this, and I circled it. There's also a west swell. West? Yeah, Mao said, you watch. And every now and then, every 5 minutes, he showed it to me. Every 5 minutes. Dave recalls, this long, low, westerly swell would come in, underlying the northeast swell, and that was the one that would slap us the underside of the hull and get us all wet. He showed me this, and I thought, man, I thought I knew something about the oceans. Jesus, I know nothing. I wrote, me. I did not see chaos. I know trauma. I saw energy in Mary's room. 1, 2, 3, like martial arts. This isn't personal, Mary. Sometimes I think we assume that people have this perspective that we're supposed to observe. And 3, I see that you can heal your classmates. And what was the outcome? Euphoric. Mao was the last one. But today he's not. Because Mao broke the kapu and said he needed to teach so that his people would have it. Because they didn't want to learn. How many voyaging canoes do we have, Mickey? over 24 voyaging canoes today around the Pacific. So, it wasn't Nainoa and I, it was Mao and I. Mao is so resilient and brilliant to understand. And aloha calms the waters. And Nainoa and I recognize that the largest voyaging canoe in the history of the world, the spiritual canoe called aloha. And I thought my canoe was just a dinghy. And my canoe that she gave me was Akahailo Kahi Olu Olu Ha'aha and Ahonuri. I'm not going to be the last one. Aloha. God bless you.